Hello, and thanks for checking out this video. My name is Zach, and I'm a serial career changer, if you want to call it that. I've had a couple careers over my career so far. I've been a hotel management employee working back of the house, front of the house, from housekeeping to front desk. Then I went and did full-time wedding photography for over 12 years almost, 11 and a half years or so, doing primarily Indian weddings, full-time photos, videos. So I had a great creative career. And then I went back to school for a computer science degree. And then I went back to school again for a master's in business analytics and AI. And in that time, I did IT consulting, which had programming and project management roles. And then I pivoted into an HR program manager role, doing diversity and inclusion in HR project management. And then my current role is data visualization in Power BI. So it's been a journey, and I just wanted to share an idea and advice that people ask me all the time, which is, how do I even know what the right path is? And I feel I can maybe answer this because I've chosen some that in hindsight 2020, maybe I probably could have chosen better. And like anything, the more I do it, not that changing careers should be something you do a lot of. And that's why I kind of learned that spending more time on the why can help you figure out what career change will make the most sense to you, and hopefully provide that happiness and that grass is always greener, what you're actually looking for. So I got this advice through two ways. One is through the NYU Career Center, doing my master's degree. During these counseling sessions, the counselor had me read a book that I actually had already read. So on the one hand, it was something I already knew, but on the other, it also reinforced that it was kind of on the right path on my own in my reading journey. And I read a ton of books, and that is reading the book Designing Your Life. And today I just want to share a little tidbit of that book, which is a treasure trove of information. And that is figuring out what you want to do for that next step in your career. So the section of the book that had the most impact on me, and I did the work, read the book twice all the way through so far, and I brushed up on the topics in that time. And that is the good time journal concept from Designing Your Life. And I've passed this advice to junior consultants, current college students, current master's students that have asked me, Zach, what do I even choose? And maybe I'm frustrated in my career right now, but what do I even pick? What is that next step? And how do I know it's the right one? And I always point back to something that helped me, which is the good time journal. So what that concept is looking through your current work week, or if you're not currently working, things you've done in the past. And I did this at a time when I was between roles. So I did kind of do those assessments of what, I thought through kind of a typical week at a role. And so what the good time journal is basically looking at your full day. And if you're currently working, you just go through the day and you kind of take an audit of where you're finding energy and where is draining your energy. So in the book, they give some kind of classic examples of maybe a strategy planning meeting. It doesn't really give you any energy. You're drained by having to, present in front of other people, present your ideas. Maybe you're a little bit introvert, or you're like me, you're in kind of an ambivert that flows between introvert and extrovert. But maybe for you, being in those group meetings where you're presenting ideas and possibly getting grilled, in the meeting is something that really drains you. But conversely, you might find that where you get the most energy and fulfillment is maybe doing like a self-directed task. So it's, in the book, they talk about doing these planning sessions. I think it was like a engineer, architect. So the example from the book is that character didn't like the big strategy meetings, but he liked the work they did actually designing things, not presenting things in meetings. So the advice in the book in that case, and maybe the book's a little old, was to double down on that and go back to school. And he became like a PhD professor in architecture so he could spend more time on those energy-giving projects And so where this helped me personally was also looking at things from that kind of task-based mindset. And so there's kind of two parts of this. The first part is auditing where actually you get your energy from, not where you think you're going to get energy from. So this is also talked about in the book, where a lot of people think of a role as something that they want to be, like, oh, I want to be a lawyer or a banker. But you have to look at the holistic view of what is the actual day-to-day of those jobs entail. A banker is honestly, living in New York myself, it's 60, 70, 80 hours. I've heard the stories of people that are in finance. It's kind of crazy this first couple of years, especially if you're in investment banking. You're going to pay the dues. It's real. And is that something you want? And same thing for a lawyer. It seems glamorous. It's one of those careers that we kind of romanticize as a culture on TV. But is that actually what you want to do when you look at the day-to-day, not the highlight reel you'll see on Instagram or on a TV show? In the modern world, I think the equivalent is programming, and it's something that I've actually done myself. And it's something that I thought I wanted to do, and maybe I didn't self-audit at the time, but I liked the problem solving, but I didn't like, or at least programming in consulting, I didn't like the ticket-based nature of just bug fixing. So personally, this is an example that I'll use where I enjoyed stretching my mind, and like we learned in a computer science degree, doing those mental exercises and figuring out problems is super cool. It's really interesting. I love the challenge of programming. But in a corporate environment, or at least in consulting, you're kind of put on these projects where, yeah, you're solving problems, but you're bug fixing. You're not building the next Google like you kind of maybe thought you would be doing if you're a programmer. Not everyone is developing the next crazy app. A lot of time it's just fixing existing legacy code. And that's the reality of a lot of things. And again, it's one of those things where, are you okay with that being your role? Is that a life you can kind of live with? Can you find fulfillment outside of work that you like, kind of being, on 100%, figuring these problems, but also dealing with the stress of production timelines, agile methodology, stand-up meetings where you're giving statuses and you're helping others. And there's a lot more to the role of a developer than just writing code all day, and especially now in the time of AI. So where I'm going with this also is looking for taking that knowledge of the kinds of tasks that give you energy. And once you kind of figure that out, that, like, for my example, yes, problem solving gave me energy. And actually, personally, I like being in meetings and doing the strategy work. I like talking to people and things I did outside of my quote unquote day job at the firm. So I liked the ERGs, and I like planning. I like being creative. And I saw programming as a way to be creative. And I enjoyed that school aspect of it, of creatively solving problems, even though if you've done any programming, a lot of it is frameworks and a lot of it is kind of going with the known way to solve things. But there are ways to be creative in programming. That's one of the reasons that drew me to that. But so now that I have that knowledge in the back of my head, the second piece of advice is taking this and looking for your next role, for looking at the jobs that actually embody those tasks. So it's looking at the role itself. Once you know what gives you energy, it's taking that knowledge and applying it to your job search. So here's the second part of this is, now that you know what gives you energy and what is kind of the right task for you to be doing, or what you want to do more of, it's finding a role that does more of that. So in this 2025 job search era, where a lot of the roles have a very similar title, in my case, analyst. Analyst can mean so many things. You can be an analyst that just does project management. You can be an analyst that does probably more data science than people that have a data science title. And you can be an analyst that does data visualizations. And that's when I was looking for roles. I was looking for roles that scratched the itch of things that I found most interesting. And having a background of 12 years of wedding photography, obviously kind of maybe being a visual person, I was looking for roles that let me explore that creative side in my data analysis, and at the same time, working with people. So I knew I enjoyed working with people. I found a lot of energy when I was in the planning meetings, working with stakeholders, trying to understand problems, working collaboratively with others. I find that very interesting. I love working in a team, but at the same time, this is that kind of ambivert, introvert, extrovert. I also like just digging down and working through the problems. So I was looking for roles and kind of job titles, looking across a range of industries that allowed me to play to those strengths, where I would find a role that would hopefully give me fulfillment. And knock on wood, so far, it's pretty fulfilling, because in my case, I found business analyst type roles as a broad search term. Again, with the nuance that it can be business analyst, it could be business intelligence developer. There's so many, again, variations that part of this is the exploration process on your own of looking how roles are titled and straying a little bit outside of that role to see also what a certain industry may call a role that does those tasks. You want to be maybe a data storyteller, but only startups really use storyteller. But in the corporate world, it might be that business intelligence team, or it might just be that generic data analyst or business analyst role. But when you look at the actual job description, you see that this business analyst is primarily responsible for using Tableau or Power BI. And you look at the same title, if you're browsing like a LinkedIn, business analyst at another role is doing kind of hardcore Excel linear regressions all day long in Excel sheets and not doing anything with visualization. So it's really a case by case basis. But if you've done the work before of knowing what you want, I think that'll save you a lot of time and heartache of getting into a role where you thought the grass would be greener on the other side, and it turned out to be not really what you were expecting. And that's going to lead you to that endless kind of cycle of searching for the next great thing. So I think that's also, using the example of designing your life, having a bias to action and doing small experiments of finding what gives you energy, as the book says, and this is maybe for another video, doing small experiments where you kind of try to do more of that, and just to basically confirm that this is actually something worth exploring. If you can, say, pick up a project on another team or do some volunteering or just a side project of doing that task you think will be giving you energy, and then confirming that, yes, this is actually something I do want to explore and do, maybe as a new career, as a career pivot or career change. And then it's kind of mapping out, do I need to get certifications, go back to school, or doing any other things to make that career transition and career change happen. But I think, to wrap this up, it all comes back to getting clarity on where exactly you find your energy, whether that's from certain kind of tasks, working in certain kind of groups, certain kind of teams, or certain kind of problems. By doing a good time journal or an energy audit, looking through your weekly tasks and examining exactly, were they positive or were they negative? Was morning stand-up positive or negative? Was checking, maybe a campaign's performance positive, negative? Did you like that analytical side? Did you like the meetings and talking to stakeholders? What exactly, if you broke down your job piece by piece, what were the great parts and what were the maybe not so great parts that drained the energy? And how can I shift the balance of tasks that I do in any role, no matter the title, to be more in the column of energy giving rather than energy taking tasks? So hopefully that's helpful. It was helpful to me to go through these tasks, to check out some of the resources from Designing Your Life, and specifically the Energy Audit. So I highly recommend checking out the book Designing Your Life and auditing your weekly tasks and seeing what is giving you energy, what is taking energy, and then following that thread to explore where a potential career change and career pivot could be and what it could look like for you. So thanks for watching and have a great day.